Hello there! We've been waiting for you!
Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, it's Miss Jen wearing her favorite pachyderm riding a hog shirt.
Sorry, I was trying not to sneeze.
It's sometimes extremely impossible. I sneezed before we started.
That is correct. It was very difficult to not sneeze directly into my microphone directly as we went live.
My kids laugh at me when I'm trying to not do it. I go, "Pachua-cha."
I usually just wind up getting one of these.
Do you guys have any cures for trying not to sneeze? Because mine will happen no matter what I really want to do.
Right. I just didn't want the music stop and me be going, chill.
I heard some people say if you pinch yourself, then you're this nerve that it won't happen. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I've never seen that work.
I see that Mr. Nope is on. Thank you for your continued support, my friend. Triple B, Make Two, Eddie. I don't see any Castles on yet.
Castle's been sick. As sick as I was, Castle's been sicker.
Oh, man.
So.
Our prayers are with you, Castle. Get well, man.
Yeah. Speaking of sick, this week's books were not.
We're not what? Sick?
Sick.
You didn't get to read very many. Your sampling was small.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. I would tell the publisher of one of these books to go back to the person you got the IP from and tell them you made a mistake and return it.
Oh, you don't like the IP?
I don't like anything that has happened that has led to this. Jay, part of that 90 Godzilla books was I'm working on something and I need to read all of the Godzilla that we had in the server. So I had Dan send me everything that had come out in the last 6 months. Or everything that he still had saved on his computer. So none of those were actually out this week.
I was going to say, I read the Godzilla book out this week.
Right. None of those were actually out this week. But I'm doing a thing that I'm very excited that when I'm able to talk about it, I will talk about it. But shout out to someone Miss Jen knows that I know that is also a very cool person in this business, whose name is 3 letters and who works for a company that is 3 letters.
Okay.
So.
Awesome.
Yay. Let's get started so I can tell you about this book that should never have happened.
How many Kyles do you see? Are there more than one Kyles? There
are this many, Triple B.
This many Kyles. This is Mothra, Queen of Monsters. This was kind of interesting. The Comics Pro thing that they handed us had this on one side, and it was the flip book with the Godzilla heist on the other. So I was super excited about this. First thing I'll say about this book is that it is so over the top gorgeous. It actually has 2 artists. The person who wrote it also did 2 pages of art, but it's so close to the artist that's actually doing the rest of it that I had a hard time picking them out. That's really good if you can try to match up. I thought for sure it was going to be like, and this page is like a memory, or it's to music or something, whatever, to make you like when it's jarringly a different thing. But no, it's seamlessly beautiful. And of course, Mothra as a creature is so pretty that it's like kaiju porn. So nice. This story brings forward that idea of twins, right? So for Mothra, back in the movies, Mothra had 2 larvae, right? Mothra has the twins, which are called the Peanuts, which are those cool little goddesses that come out and sing the song from her island and summon her. And this continues with this. This actually focuses it on 2 sisters who find themselves, one of them as a very, very young girl, sees her, what she assumes is her family getting killed and her sister getting killed. And it moves forward in the story to when she's a young adult and has big interactions again with like, oh gosh, Mothra's the reason why that they were killed, because she didn't do her job and she ended up getting killed herself. And they live in a world in which Mothra is dead, but she didn't drop off an egg anywhere. So in this one, it's kind of a time heist. They need to go back in time to get an egg so that they have one in the present to fight enemies. So it's just awesome. Beautiful, awesome. Just like everything IDW puts out that's Godzilla related. There's going to be tons of Godzilla coming, y'all. If you like Godzilla books, you're going to get it from all directions. You're going to get Godzilla versus everything. You're going to get these kinds of things like Godzilla heist, and it's going to continue to be a Godzilla time, even past, I think last year was his 70th or 70th. I guess. So we're going to keep on celebrating. And Web of Spider-Verse New Blood. We get a bunch of new characters in this book. It's kind of interesting the way this is couched, because I'm not 100% certain who the narration voice is, but the narration voice is saying that they're putting together a team for a very important purpose. And they actually show some of the team members that they've chosen, and they make sense. It's like regular Miles or Peter. I think maybe this was regular Peter Parker, and then a bunch of other characters from normal comic books, not from the Spider-Verse, most of them. And then it shows them kind of like as if they're in little shards of crystal. And then there's a couple that this voice mentions, but you don't get to see them. You kind of see outline, but you don't get them revealed or anything. And the rest of the book spends time telling 3 stories about specific spider versions, and they are all on the very front cover, so you actually can see what they are like. There's this spider prowler character. That one in the middle is a Peter Parker, a vampire kind of character. And then there's a Spider Hulk character. And so the 3 stories in here are basically the narrator kind of being like considering the character, but there's also a storyline that happens that lets you kind of know what that character's powers are, what they're like. And so the end of the story has them choose. But of course, what's cool about it is they never, ever reveal who are in those 2 shards. So to what purpose are they choosing this? Aha! This book ties directly into the big old Venom storyline that's coming soon. I think it's the Venomverse storyline. So this is a great lead in. It'll be the first appearance of these characters. And I'm sure all of them are going to show up even if they're not chosen by whoever this is. So grab it up, put it on your polls.
See, I had myself muted because I was coughing. And then I started talking and nobody could hear me.
I just thought you were sneezing or something and didn't want anyone to hear.
No. So Darkwing Duck, I had a big complaint starting with the first issue of the Dynamite Darkwing Duck. And it was that it didn't feel like Darkwing Duck, even though it was written by the same person. And it's been my problem with a lot of these Disney licenses that they've done. They've not felt like the cartoons I grew up with. This fixes that in a huge way.
Oh.
Daniel Kibblesmith did a great job of making this feel like the Darkwing Duck that I grew up getting to watch when it was a free Disney preview weekend. Right? The joke about, like what Darkwing Duck is, he's the terror, I forget what the line is. He's the cold seat, he's the cold toilet seat in the public bathroom, whatever, like these lines that are just so funny, but that are meant for adults almost to get the jokes, not necessarily kids. This felt like that. It felt like it was playing at all the levels. And the way the story was told felt more like the show. It didn't feel like we were telling some side tangent of what was happening on the show, right, in Darkwing's life. It felt more like this is an episode of the animated show. And so I really enjoyed this one. This is one that, had this come out, 2 years ago when Darkwing Duck originally dropped from Dynamite, I would have had a lot more excitement for this series. I went into this instead with trepidation, going into this book, and was so happy at what I read, because it just, again, it felt like it was the right voice. This is, the previous volume doesn't matter of Darkwing Duck. This is almost a reset of the story. Like, it's reintroducing you to Gosling. It's reintroducing you to Darkwing. It's reintroducing you to Launchpad. It's reintroducing you to his rogues gallery, as it were. It's reintroducing you to everybody and letting you find your comfort in this story again. So this is a great way to introduce a young reader to comics who maybe knows Darkwing Duck from other animated stuff. It's a great way to introduce Darkwing Duck to us old heads who are like, you kids, get off my lawn. It's just a really good way to bring this book back around. I'm not going to get too much into the story because it doesn't. Like, I don't feel like there's a ton of plot here, because it's doing that thing of, again, reminding you who Darkwing is, reminding you what this universe feels like, reminding you who these people are. And I feel like it sets you up for a really good spot in issue 2 to start the full-on adventure.
Very cool. I'm glad I made you happy because I was worried about that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there are 3 books this week that are tying into this storyline, the X-Man Hunt. This one is the first part, led very strongly by Gail Simone in her book Uncanny X-Men. As you can remember, Professor X has been in Graymalkin. They had an unsuccessful escape attempt for him, and mostly the Graymalkin storyline ended up very clearly letting us know who was on what side, just mostly about showing off the X powers and things. In this one, you get to really down into the nuts and bolts of him in this first issue here, the Uncanny X-Men one. You see a little bit of the X-Men that are training this new group of kids, but this kind of does more excursus into the actual escape of Professor X. So it should be surprised if we've got more than one issue of this X-Man Hunt that he has escaped in this issue. So I'll let you read this book so you can see how it happens. It's kind of interesting because I did not realize that the distrust of him went quite so deep. But this one is a great start, and then it has 2 more issues that tie into it this week, and I will talk about those when those come up next. That's going to be the 3rd part. Can I do the 2nd part next? If we do, it's going to be the NYX. Is it possible, Jay? It's weird to talk about the end. Okay. So in this one, Professor X shows up and tries to get the members of this team to help him by telling them that his real goal is to find that seed that someone stole from Krakoa. It's the last Krakoan seed, essentially. If you wanted to regrow any part of Krakoa, you would need this thing. So this is his mission that he's presented to them, and of course, some of them are very against it, and some of them don't believe a single thing he says, and that's probably merited. So all right, go ahead, Kyle.
I'm excited to read a not this EC book, because this is just not for me.
Like the Swords and Superheroes line.
It's not even Swords and Superheroes. It's Sword and Sorcery. Give me a superhero and I'm in. But like, I don't need to see another knight fight another dragon. I get it. Knights fight dragons. You know? So this is, again, like, if you're in the Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Sword and Sorcery fandom, this is great for you. You're going to love it. And there's nothing particularly objectionable about it. It just isn't my jam. The second story in this book, which name I can't remember, I will say is the first book in the new EC stuff that I've felt like feels like old school EC in terms of the way it looks.
Okay.
There have been a lot of art in these series that feel like modern artists trying to do EC, right? Those old school EC books had a certain feel, a certain crunchiness, a certain line art, a certain style that is so uniquely EC.
Mm-hmm.
That when it's somebody trying to replicate that, or somebody doing a mimic, or somebody playing that game, you could tell it isn't original. This did not look that way at all. This felt like EC to me, which was really cool. The third story is a Karina Bechko story.
Ooh.
That if it continues in every volume, I will continue getting this book just for that. It feels like almost prehistoric, Native American almost, or indigenous peoples with a little bit of sword and sorcery, but not too much. Some dragons, but they're more like dinosaurs. Red Sonja. The character feels like a Red Sonja type, where she's like this assassin, badass woman who gets hired to kill things nobody else can kill. You know, like it feels like that. And that was really fun. But mainly because it felt grounded in the reality of you're an assassin, do assassin things. Right? It didn't necessarily feel like it was built on this. There be dragons and saber-toothed tigers in this world. Even though that's an important part of it. It felt grounded in this is who I am, this is my job. I have a very specific set of skills. Skills that are to make people like you's lives miserable. And to free saber-toothed tigers from captivity. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it has this feeling that is very almost tangible for a non-tangible world. And so I really like the Karina Betchko story in this. Again, let me go back to reading the ones that are scary, not the ones that are like, there's a dragon, and I will be happy. But this was, this was fine. This was good. It was, again, if this is your jam, you're going to love it.
So funny. The thing on the front doesn't look like a dragon, looks more like a T-Rex.
That is a thing that you'll find in one of the stories.
Ooh.
Right. They're not necessarily dragons, but they're dragons. But they're not necessarily dinosaurs, but they're dinosaurs.
Oh, I'm sorry. The way my son used to do it was just 2 fingers. Okay, so I definitely wanted to review this, even though I didn't want to give you guys like overexposure to the X titles this week. A little bit because I wanted to make sure everybody knows something really, really big happened in the Storm books recently. So you're used to Aurora being in charge of weather related things, right? And she's really, really strong. There's no surprise that she can hold her own. She should be leader of the X-Men at least some of the time because Scott doesn't have what it takes. But in this one, you find out, you can totally jump in here. This would be a good place to do it, honestly. Or go back and find the other ones. It would be good. That recently, Eternity, which is the embodiment of the universe, has basically, she's the living embodiment now. So Storm has got pretty significant powers over and above what she once had. You'll get to see her flex them in this and against X-Men, because what happens is that Xavier comes to her after retrieving something at the very end of the NYX issue, which you might see, he's currently got on his head. In this one, the X, everyone else, the original team basically comes for him to re-put him away. And she says, absolutely not. Because what he's really kind of doing is he says, and I believe this is probably really true, that he's actually received a distress call from his daughter from the Shi'ar Empire. And so he's really trying to get out to go and save her, or at least that's what he's got Storm convinced of. And there is a confrontation between her and Cyclops, which will really mess you up. There is an arm that is ripped off in this issue, not Scott's, somebody else's. And it's a little more violent than I'm used to from an X title when it's, mutant on mutant action. You're normally aligned with each other. And the other thing is you get to see, I don't think we've got to see this yet, but she has her own, think of a giant battleship / space station, and it's called Thundercloud, and it's so daggum cool. So I'm saying all this to say there's a lot of reasons for you to maybe think about putting Storm on your radar for things to try out and read, because A, they're gorgeous, really great art, and the storyline is just killing it. So jump in. And then, okay, Jedi Knights. Let me see if I can remember exactly where this fits. This is a time in which the Supreme Chancellor is still the really nice guy who gets knocked out of the running in episode 1. Valorum, is that his name? Valorum?
Mm-hmm.
So he's still in power. So this is really the Jedi Knights that you would see on the council, that era. This is them out doing things. They're really trying to try to force these two warring planets to not war, but they keep on trying to explain, the rulers of these places keep on trying to explain there's a long history and background and cultural relevance, all these things that the Jedi are not understanding. And the Jedi are just pushing forward in this regard. So this is like, those cool parts of that, which were like a little bit political, a little bit cultural, whatever, that were like, why do I care if there's a trade war or whatever from episode 1? It's because things like this happen where the Jedi stuck their noses into stuff. It does have a young Obi-Wan, but doesn't have him necessarily being directly underneath Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon has another trainee under him who is equally as willful, and he's cool. So, and you can see Yoda kicking butt, which everyone likes to see. Ooh.
Mama always said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Oh, no, Kyle. Okay, so I will be real. It's been so long since I've seen the Herculoids. I don't know if I can tell you what their deal was.
And neither could I, and I just read the book. The thing about nostalgia is that there has to be some nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know that anybody was out here begging for the Herculoids to come back. Right? Begging for more Herculoids. Same way I don't know that there was anybody out there begging for more Silverhawks, or there's anybody out there begging for
that
more
was me. I will fall on that sword. I was the person asking for the Silverhawk.
Or begging for more biker mice from Mars, or begging for more of the Narcelverse stuff, or so many of the nostalgia properties that are coming out right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know that there are people out there begging for them. If they are, then this book is liable to do gangbusters for Dynamite. But if there aren't, we got a problem. And I hate to be that guy, but the A cover is pretty great. And on the inside, there's a what looks to be a Mignola piece of art that looks really great. And then the art for the pages, like, I don't remember exactly what the Herculoids looked like in cartoons, but you can't tell, is this drawn this way because it was intended to look like the cartoons, or because it was drawn by a small child? It's just simplistic. It's basic. I don't love it. It doesn't really scream to me that this is something that represents a furthering of this franchise. The story was fine. Like, it's Tom Snagowski, who's a hell of a writer. And so the storytelling is fine. The storytelling is good. But it's just like, there was nothing here that made me go, I want to read number 2. And unfortunately, that's just such a disservice to this IP.
Mm-hmm.
Such a disservice to the fans of this. And that's what bums me out so much, is I think with these properties, like, again, Dynamite has so many really cool nostalgia properties right now. Right? You've got, as much as I wasn't excited for Silverhawks, that first book was so good, I'm excited for it now. Right? As great as they did with Space Ghost, as good as they're doing with Darkwing Duck, as good as they're doing with so many of these gargoyles and all this kind of stuff. To have one like this, it just feels like we got it as part of a bundle deal, so we're going to do it. Feels bad. Like, I feel bad for not liking it. I feel, it's like there is just something about this that just is disappointing to me.
I feel like, maybe you can correct me on this, weren't there a couple of titles for Dynamite that you read? Because you tend to end up reading the number 1. That the number 1 wasn't your jam, but then it kind of like resolved itself the next issue or 2.
They have, but always in those number 1s, they've given me a reason to want to read number 2. The art is usually it's the art is so incredible, I'll keep reading it just to stare at the pictures. or they leave something in the last few panels that has hooked me into number 2. That was not the case in this issue. And I think a lot of that has to do with, we have to remind people who the Herculoids are.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if it'd be better if, like, we went back and watched, like,
right,
some episodes and be like, oh yeah, I do remember now.
Or if you were 20 years older than me and had watched the Herculoids when they first came out, right? Like, Ed is excited for the Herculoids. Well, Ed may read this book and go, Kyle's full of crap. This was great. But guess what?
Yeah.
I have nothing of a connection to the Herculoids. And this book didn't give me one.
Yeah, that is something I do like to remind everybody. Like, just because we have an opinion about a book, that does not mean that you cannot love a book. Don't ever feel like we're telling you have to not like or like a thing that we like or don't like. You can hate something that I love, because darn it, I love everything. So,
right, 100%. 100%. Like, again, if you have to make me care about a character, if you're going to put out a character that is niche like this, you've got to make the readers who don't already have a connection with it care about it in your first issue. And if you don't, then why would they read the next issue? And that, again, that is the problem here. There's just nothing here that says, oh, I need to keep reading the Herculoids. It was just, in my opinion, it was a letdown. I would be interested to hear, again, from Miss Jen, from Eddie, from somebody who watched the original Hanna-Barbera series, if they feel the same way. Because if they don't, I'm more than thrilled to be wrong. You know, like, that would make me nothing would make me happier than for Ed to message me and go, hey man, I read it, you were wrong, and here's why.
Oh yeah.
Because I could learn, right? Like, the same way when I talked highly about other books that people didn't like, they reached out to me and was like, hey man, you're wrong, here's why. Okay, I'm good with that. This was just not, in my opinion. I got to read 5 books this week, and because of that, it makes this sticking out even that much worse.
Oh, we got 3 agreeers. Nope said, and Castle kind of agree with you that not the strongest book of the week.
Yeah, and again, you guys keep reading, and tell me what you think.
By the way, y'all, sorry I'm squirming around like a crazy person. My right foot is totally cramped up. I'm trying to find a way to make it stop it. So anyway, but the show must go on. Doctor Strange of Asgard. I didn't really know what I was getting into with this one. I'm actually kind of down for where this is going. Okay, so to catch you up, Doctor Strange at some point, it actually refers to the actual issue in here. I think it was during Blood Hunt. Actually gives up the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme to Doom, who sweet talked him out of it, telling him he was going to use it for good, and then immediately used it to be like, nope, one world under Doom in it. And also shirking his responsibilities as champion of the Earth and giving that to poor Peter Parker, who's still feeling that storyline out in the 8 deaths of Peter Parker. So this all ties together. That's all you really need to know about it. So Doctor Strange is a sorcerer with no mantle, so he really doesn't have a place to be. For some reason, I thought he had died at some point. Like, kept on showing him as kind of like like Ghost Obi-Wan everywhere they were showing him. So maybe he's not dead. I just thought he was dead. Maybe he's just like only appearing from the astral plane because he knows Doom will suss him out. So in this book, he makes a decision to show up in Asgard because he knows that Loki, who once was their, I can't remember what they call it, but there is an actual position of kind of magic power of protection over Asgard. He screwed it up like he always does. And so Doctor Strange is really coming with like, it's kind of funny because it's almost like, hi, my name is Doctor Strange. I would like to apply for the position of whatever this position is. That's the magic user. And to be given the actual title of Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard. So he gets his mantle. Like, I'm guessing maybe with that title comes back some power that he didn't once have. It's kind of interesting in this. He meets some kind of characters at a pub because he gets talked to by Thor, but then also Thor asks him if he wants to stay at the palace, and silly Doctor Strange says, no, I don't want to be treated any better than anybody else. So then he realizes, I don't really have a place to go. I don't know anything about Asgard or the people. I think some of the cutest part about this story is that the people that he meets all talk like Thor, right? That real flowery Asgardian language. And they're just like, think he's an idiot because he doesn't talk like them, which is kind of funny because Doctor Strange is not an idiot. So this is a really great story, y'all. I think it'll be cool if this is where he ends up. And it does fit really well into the One World Under Doom storyline. And it's been a while since I've seen Doctor Strange have his own book. It's mostly been him kind of like showing up very importantly in other storylines. But this is the thing that makes me so happy about comics, y'all. When you say to yourself, does it pay off to read all of the side titles and things like the Professor X storyline that's running through the X titles makes you feel so cool when you're like, going, I do know how all this fits together. I did read all of that stuff that Hickman put together for Power and House. And I've had people come in recently that are looking for those books because they're like, you know what? This has continued to be important for the universe, and maybe I need to go back and actually read it now. So it just makes me really happy when people get into the full, what I call mythos of characters. So I know that there's some people it makes angry because it means they have to buy more comic books, but I mean, they bring you so much joy. That's what they're for. Oh my goodness. Okay. I live in a world where somehow I never had any friends tell me to go watch Teen Titans when it was like a serious cartoon with lots of gravitas and unrequited love and whatever else people loved about Teen Titans. I apologize that my first exposure to Teen Titans was Teen Titans Go, which is why I talk still like Starfire. Put a "the" where it doesn't make any sense. Absolutely, because I identify with that crazy alien. So all of those things that you loved about the Spider-Man movie where they felt like they were in every chat room and they're like, you know what? I'm going to address the fact that we know that Tobey Maguire has a bad back and that's why he hasn't been playing Spider-Man. I want to address the thing that everyone thinks that Garfield was a throwaway Spider-Man. So it's like they've been listening to all of us say, Teen Titans Go sucks big ones and Teen Titans is where it's at. And, you know, these other guys are stupid. So this actually does a bunch of different styles of Teen Titans. So it is really a story of them. They start out at a castle that has the DC logo on it. And it says, they're like, oh, this is where they make the DC comic books. We're going to go in and talk to them because we want them to make another Teen Titans Go comic book, even though we just discovered that they actually made them at all. So it breaks the fourth wall completely. And they get basically told by the editor, no, we're not going to make a Teen Titans Go comic book. It's no. a big no from us. And so they spend their time trying to imagine what they could pitch to the editor, what version of Teen Titans they could show that would actually get them to say yes. And the very first version that they show or dream up is that original Teen Titans setup. So you guys will be real happy. But then like all kinds of other ones. I swear that they used Art Baltazar's art in part of it. It was like one panel for that style of them. It's like reimagine what it would look like as 90s, like real underground kind of cool comic book. It's a lot of fun, this one, y'all. If you just want to have a good day and smile and enjoy yourself, or have something to like hand off to someone and be like, hey, try this, it'll make your day. This is it. I think it was really my favorite comic book of the week. That guy forgot his pants.
Yeah, at one point he's wearing like a sumo fighter thong, and it gets real uncomfortable because he's like 107.
Oh my.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? I did not need a butt shot of that guy at that age. Not necessary. Listen, before you dive into Blade Forger, you need to understand that you're diving into a universe.
Okay.
There is a YouTube soundtrack. There is animated content that goes along with it. The Miranda brothers are doing a lot. Normally, I would be, as the kids say, they be out here doing too much, but I think they be doing just the right amount. This is the story of if Dolly Parton was a sword fighter.
What?
Hear me out. I'm going to get there, but I wanted to let that sink in for a second. This is the story of a young boy who is born in an incredibly impoverished and poor, seemingly desperate situation, who is born with an incredible gift to be a blade forger. And in this world, blade forgers are the most revered fighters. This kid at 3 years old is a natural sword wielder. And then throughout their time, blade forgers go and they fight in tournaments. And by the time this kid is 19, he's won every major tournament. He is the greatest there ever was. And with doing that, he rises from the ashes, right, of poverty to be in charge. He is the emperor. And then it all takes a turn. And so this is coming to understand the story of this family and their rise to power, and the story of how we got where we are now, where maybe his son is not the emperor he should have been, and how the father needs to sort of fix the situation, but he's old and feeble, but he's still a great sword fighter. And the promise that a champion can give to people who are downtrodden, and how a community, even with very little resources, when they bind together, can raise up a great future and a great leader. So very fun book, very interesting book. Way too many butts in weird, like, again, samurai sumo wrestling thongs, but still very fun. And I would encourage you, on the first page, there's a QR code. Scan the QR code, get the YouTube soundtrack, get the little animations, get all of that to really kind of immerse yourself in the full universe.
Okay. What do you need to know? If you read the Absolute Power storyline, where Amanda Waller flexed her muscles messed around using the Queen Brainiac and the Amazos and some other bits to like basically, instead of being happy with doing her normal thing, which is just using extreme influence, I don't know how she does it, and fear to manipulate everybody. She basically took everyone's power and kind of ruled everything for a while. That got blown up by a precog who's actually in this book. I think where is she? She's one of the two girls on the cover there. And Secret Six, shh, don't say. So when we start out this series, they don't know where Waller is at all. John is feeling guilty because he was one of the major like hammers that Waller used. He was completely under the control of the Brainiac Queen, and like really, he was one of the guys that went out there and found the superheroes and stole their powers, and it's really bad. He's got some problems because of that. And also, Jay and he are kind of at odds with each other. Jay is not mad at him or blaming him at all for what happened, but because John's so guilty, feeling so guilty about it, then it's really put friction in their relationship, really big friction. So as part of what they're doing is that they kind of, I can't remember how they get the information, but they find out that there is a prisoner who is named, what's the name of this girl? That is the one that is got the pigtails down there. Black somebody. Ugh. Hate it when I can't remember names. Don't get old ever, y'all. She supposedly knows where Waller is, so she has them come and tries to talk them into breaking her out of this prison. Meanwhile, other parts of this group, including Deadshot, show up. Yes, thank you, Black Alice. I'm so proud of y'all. It's just such an easy name. You're like, why can't I access that? So this is all of them showing up, really not being able to work as a team 100% because they, like Black Alice could be telling them the truth that she will take them to Amanda, but also could be complete baloney just wanting to get out of the prison. So it's a beginning of cool stuff. They could have called it Secret Six. They could have called group of people trying to hunt down Amanda Waller, and I would have bought that too. So if you just are normally like, I don't know, Secret Six, I had never read Secret Six way back in the day. I don't think it has anything to do with the original Secret Six at all. Maybe Deadshot was in the original Secret Six, but I can't believe any of the rest of these guys are. But I really like it. It's crazy because I am not a DC reader historically, but I will read anything that ties to Waller because I just want to try to understand her. I have a criminal justice degree, and I really want to unpack why she is the way she is, even though they gave me kind of an origin story for her in Absolute Power Origins, did not help. Did not help me. So if you want to also unpackage all the craziness, there you go. Alice is trouble. Kill Train, that looks nice and family friendly.
Yeah. This book came out last week, but I wasn't on the show last week, so I didn't get to review it. So I'm reviewing it this week. As you'll recall, there's a population boom. And the city of New York decides to deal with it by having Thanos level processes, aka if you get on the subway, there's a chance you're going to get killed.
Oh my gosh.
Right. These are called kill trains. And what happens is these trains start going and then they don't stop till the end of the line. And on these trains are psychopaths who kill everyone on the train. And anybody who survives gets killed at the end of the line.
So you don't know that you're accidentally getting on?
Correct.
When they've chosen, okay.
You got no way of knowing. And to be honest, that's what keeps it fair.
Poor Lord, isn't that how they are now?
Like you don't know. But this is the story of a woman who is not having the best go in life right now. Things are strained with her kids, things are strained with her boyfriend, things are strained with her work, and she has to go downtown and she doesn't have enough money to take a cab. So she gets on a train and turns out it's a kill train. But you find out in this, and that's the end of issue 1. You find out at the beginning of this issue that there are some situations, and they wind up, her and the other people on this particular car wind up surviving. And if you've ever seen Snowpiercer, it kind of takes on a vibe of us versus them. The people who survive the first train are going to try to survive the whole train.
Okay.
Or the first car are going to try to survive the whole train. And this is how they are going to proceed. And so this is a big action-packed issue, but this is that. Do you know in Deadpool 2, when they break down who all the different members of the Deadpool team are? You have that, which is very great, very fun. And then you have a big action sequence. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I think every issue is going to be another train car, as it were.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite books coming out right now, but it is an interesting take, and it is a very, very adult book. There's a lot of blood, and there is a lot of psychological warfare, and there's a lot of just messed up stuff in it that really is interesting to me.
So it's a lesson to be learned: don't mess with pissed off moms.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Yes. So. All right, great. Everybody, head into your local comic shop. Things are hard right now. Need you to go to your local comic shop. And I need you to spend money at your local comic shop. There's a big debate right now happening amongst comic shop owners about the future of comic shops. And, Castle, you'll love it. About the future of comic shops and about the way things are going to go. And there's a lot of uncertainty. The easiest thing you can do is, 1, order your books by FOC from your local comic shop. If you want to find out what's on FOC on Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern, order up the Final Order Cutoff Show with me and Matthias. We'll take you through it. We'll tell you what you can order and what you should call about. Secondly, pick up your pull lists. If you have a pull list, pick it up. Don't be delinquent. Don't be a jerk. Go into your local comic shop and buy the stuff. Your retailers are paying for this stuff up front. So they already paid for your books. Now you got to go in and buy them. And if you don't, you're leaving them on the hook for something you committed to buying. And that is a jerk move. 3, when you go into your local comic shop, buy something you didn't order. Buy one other thing. Even if it's an expired candy bar that's by the register that's been there since 1974. Get it out of there. Give them room to put something else there. Like, just
buy
help
a
them
sticker.
out.
Don't get an expired candy bar.
Hey, if it's still sitting there, get it out of there and just throw it in the garbage. Or eat it. Maybe you'll turn it into the thing. We'll see what happens. But what I'm saying is buy some extra stuff if you can afford it. Things are really dicey right now, and it's really important that you support your local comic shop. If you don't know where a local comic shop is nearby to you, comicshoplocator.com is a great resource for that. You can head over to comicshoplocator.com, which, by the way, Miss Jen, is not on the list of Diamond products to be sold at auction. So it may survive.
Or get superpowers. Yeah.
Yeah. No, comicshoplocator.com. Type in the numbers of the area where you are, and it will tell you where there are comic shops nearby to you. There is another service that is up and coming called findmycomic.store. And it will tell you where there are comic shops nearby to you.
That's a brilliant title. I love it.
Mm-hmm. So findmycomic.store or comic shop locator to find comic shops nearby to you. And then go into a comic shop and buy the stuff, man. Do the things. Coming up next, we have Welcome to Wonderland with Rich and AJ. Miss Jen will be over on CBSN. Kicking It with Henri, Honest Henri from Chicago. See you later. And then further on down the line, tomorrow we've got Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, or with Rex. Then Jay and I will be here with Kyle and Jay's Q&A. We will have special guest Brian Garside from Manage Comics, where we will be having a very interesting show where we talk about barcodes. No, we're kidding. We're going to talk about comic data and how you can help with comic data and how your store can use comic data and how it will make everybody's life better once we all understand why data is important. And then on Thursday, full slate of shows, man. Miss Jen will be here with What's in the Box. We'll have the Geek Chat back. And we will have Sketch Up with Mel and Mog, except Mel and Mog will be at a convention, so Erwin Papa is filling in. So that'll be a very interesting show. Then Friday, me and Matthias at 1 o'clock. Order up. 7 o'clock, the Original Art Experience with the Nikki. And 9 o'clock, Miss Nancy shows up with Friday Night Live from Comics Unlimited.
Eddie B. Data was important to Picard.
Ed, I promise you, tomorrow night's show, you are going to be so into, I can't even begin to tell you. You're going to love the conversation we're having. So make sure you tune in. We will see everybody next time. Stay tuned for all the great shows, and we will see you later.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.